Hey everyone, this is James REILMAN with Push the Lane, here with the man so consistently inaccurate that his BS is said to be used to set the atomic clocks, but also whose mambo is so powerful that it's said to be the leading cause for the Tacoma Narrows bridge collapse, Mr. Nick Allen.
I don't even know what that is, but the real secret here is we had to shoot the intro twice because James was so vulgar in our first shot that we had to redo it. But it's good to be here, everyone. Let's push the lane. Exciting LCS matches happening over the weekend. I got to watch a good amount of it. The EU stuff was a little dry, in my opinion, but let's start out. We can go to our picks, and we can talk about...
Right off the bat, actually, let's take a look at the standings for the LCS so far. Curse, still dominant, obviously. TSM kind of, squeezing their way in there at 4-2 to second place, which, honestly, if you watch their play, they're doing some really solid things, but nothing really that fancy. And then on the EU side, Evil Geniuses, obviously the story there as the #1 contenders. Gambit Gaming making a little bit of a resurgence, but we'll kind of see how, that progresses. And that brings us up to the topic. How did we do this past week?
I don't want to talk about it.
How was our rankings? We're going to Buddy over at the studio.
Let's talk to Buddy about it.
Hi, guys. Well, you can kind of see by looking at this screen that Nick Allen is kind of like Paris Hilton. He's famous, but no one knows why. So James, 13 out of 16. Nick, 9 out of 16. But Reddit community, 13 out of 16. James kept up this week. So total 24 out of 32. Good job, James. Nick, you're fired.
Yeah, that's
give me a lower third right there. Give me a lower third. I want to feel special. Bring up some of that porno music, too, if you can.
Oh, gosh.
Back to you guys in the same studio I'm in.
Thank you very much, Buddy. Yes, I am at 17 out of 32. That's roughly half.
Yeah.
If my math serves correctly.
Nick's picks, he did actually make them. It wasn't, like a flip of a coin. We didn't just BS you and throw those up there. I mean, he actually made those terrible picks. TSM Vulcan, 2 weeks in a row, Nick. How was that?
I'm not feeling great about it, okay? All right.
The Reddit one, there wasn't a Reddit poll this weekend, so we actually used the GGChronicle power rankings. And we'll figure out what we're kind of doing with that from now on, but that's essentially community picks. But that brings us right into our first topic, which is NA winners. Who were the winners this weekend? TSM 2-1. I don't know if you could actually consider them winners. There's no question, though. Dignitas at 3-0. They looked very strong in the NA scene, and big comeback from last weekend.
Yeah, I have to go with Curse. Of course, they're looking really strong, and they haven't shown that they're beatable yet. And which is kind of the crazy thing, because they go into these games and they lose early, almost certainly, and then as it transitions into the mid and late game, they somehow manage to come back and surprise everybody. And they're unbeatable right now. They're just too damn strong, and I think it's probably on the back of St. Vicious and Voyboy, both those guys playing their roles to a T, really holding it down. And they're just strong, they're solid, and no one else can beat them right now.
Yeah, and Dignitas, if we can, I guess we're taking a look at the Curse clip here. So why don't you go through this one real quick?
Yeah, it's basically just a dragon fight. This is sort of where it turned around in the match against Complexity. Complexity had a strong early lead. They were looking good. They're playing their game, which is, that early aggression, but they just couldn't handle it, and Curse came back after another fight. You'll see an awesome dodge here from Cop, dodging Laudamorris's Vi. But, I mean, this is the match that really turned it around and showed that Curse is unbeatable, and that no matter how big of an advantage you have going into the mid and late game, it's Curse's game.
And that fight in particular, it started off kind of as a 4v5, and Vi, he was hunting down Cop, but Cop really didn't have that much damage at that point in the game. Caitlyn early on isn't really that significant. So his AoE actually might have been able to win the fight if he had come to the rest of the team. But coming back to Dignitas, if we can pull up a clip of Dignitas real quick, I was really interested in watching their play because it was very conservative. They were just doing a really nice job about not letting up any easy kills. They were just slowly bullying around their opponents, and you would see games where Dignitas would be even in kills and then ahead 10k gold. They were just slowly wearing advantages. It wasn't anything flashy. They weren't winning these big team fights. They were just slowly building advantages in the early game and doing a very nice job of that. Their opponents almost looked sloppy playing against them. GGU, I also actually have them as a winner. I was very happy with GGU's play. We came in, we thought they were going to go 2-0. They lost to Dignitas, but Dignitas looked very good. But this play in particular versus Vulcan had a 5k gold lead in this game. And GGU, they kited very effectively, just backed off, were able to push objectives, and then it's that kiting play and then poking people down that won them. And I actually think that's a big characteristic of all of the winning teams this past weekend, was you saw all of the team fights were very conservative from those winning teams, and they would just kite very effectively, not let anyone die, maximize their damage potential on the outside skirts of those fights, and win fights that way.
Yeah, I would agree. Dignitas definitely on the winner side of things. They played really well. They played their objective-focused game. Not a lot of kills early on, just controlling those objectives and farming up. And we saw giant leads over the other teams that they were playing against. And that actually brings us into NA losers. You said GGU was a winner, but this week I have to retract what I said the previous weeks. GGU's looking like losers to me. They just haven't been able to play well. Dignitas smashed them, basically, in their game. I mean, we have a clip coming up here. Dignitas was way in the lead early on, and again, it showed just, it's a low kill game. I think it's 8-5 at this point, probably less. And it's Dignitas controlling the game and going for those objectives. They push GG out, they get a couple kills, and then once that's done, that team fight's over, they move on, they take the dragon, they continue to hold those objectives, which are so key to their success up to this point.
Well, let's be fair there. That was a 15k gold advantage when that fight happened.
Absolutely.
So Dignitas was going to win that fight. But you're right, up until that point, I think they had the first three dragons in that game, so they were able to control that. But we are on to the losers here. So continuing with that theme, Marn, Vulcan, obviously the big losers of the NA scene. They're really struggling. Vulcan in particular, they showed some nice things, but you could see in all of their team fights, they actually overextended a lot. In this fight in particular against TSM, they dove in. Jarvan missed on Reginald. Reginald had a really nice flash there. And their whole team was kind of diving in, trying to get Reginald. And so Rumble, Tarek, Jarvan, everyone was caught way out of position. Rumble in particular going down very early to the AoE from TSM, and that actually lost them games in a couple of those matches. The fact that Zuna plays those short-range AD carries, so he's very vulnerable, and then their front line is overextending for kills in team fights, pulls them out of position, so they really struggled.
Yeah, I'm really seeing a strong separation between the good teams in North America and the bad teams, and it seems like week to week the bad teams are just trying to hang on and trying to show like, look guys, we're not all that bad, even though we lost. We didn't lose by that much. I don't think Martin's going to win any games this whole season. I'm starting to feel like Vulcan is going to need a lot more practice.
They're going to win some. You have to imagine they're going to win sometime.
Hopefully they'll win 1 or 2 games. So I think they have a little bit, in store for them still. But the key thing is that they're practicing hard. So will they be able to get to that point? Do you think they can?
I don't know if they're going to be competitive this season. I think that they'll win some matches here or there. Maybe next season, they can prove something. I don't see it right now. I think that they have a significant period of time before they're going to be a top tier team. They can be competitive in the region potentially, as the season progresses. So we'll see if they can make some strides there. But internationally, I don't see it. Yeah.
So we are seeing a separation between the top and the bottom teams in North America. But that brings us to our next topic, and we're also seeing it there, a big separation between these teams in the EU LCS. So NA winner, or EU winners this time around, who were you liking?
Well, there's no question. Evil Geniuses is the big winner for this week for the EU. 3-0. I was really confident in my picks with them, and in particular, you watch this match versus SK. It was just incredible. You see, they played very conservatively. There's not a lot of kills at this point in the game, but they were pushing objectives. They had a very strong kiting team, and you see SK, they had a team that has to dive. They have like Xin Zhao, Aurelia, I believe. And so they dive right into the Lux. In that case, Froggen made a great play picking off Twitch. He had a great snipe there, and they were able to bully them off. But it was a very low-kill game. They just slowly pushed their advantage against SK, and SK really didn't have any opportunities there because of how strong, that kiting siege kind of team was for Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to rethink my picks now when I'm considering EG. I thought they didn't have a lot of time to practice.
How many?
I didn't think
they were going 0-3 this week.
Yeah, well, whatever. I wasn't confident in their play. They haven't had consistent internet. They've had some issues. They haven't been practicing as much as those other teams. But I guess it doesn't matter in the end. Like
you had them 0-6 the past 2 weeks.
All right, well, I'm going to rethink what I'm going to be picking this next week. But I had little confidence in them, and now I have a lot. And I'm actually convinced that they're supposed to be first in this league. They are the strongest team in Europe right now. I think Gambit, is up there too. I think they have a little bit of a fire under their butt right now. So I think we can expect, and we did see better play out of them. And that actually brings to my pick for this week, Gambit Gaming. They played remarkably well. They played a little bit more fundamental. We didn't see such risky picks that we'd seen previously. They played aggressive. Yeah, they're looking really strong, and I'm not surprised to see them in the place that they're in. And I think in the future, they're going to continue to expand their champion pool, continue to play weird comps, weird strategies, and they're going to integrate their solid play into some really fun things to watch.
I'm actually curious if Gambit, if their failings in the first week has to do with how the meta's changed and whatnot, because they've always had a very aggressive, short-range kind of team, but a team that can, just move in as kind of a little pack and dive onto their opponents. And now we're seeing all these kiting teams being very successful. And if that's the reason, or if they're just a little bit out of practice, I think it's probably a little bit of the latter. So we'll see how they continue to do. I actually have as one of my last winners, Dragonborns. They went 1-1, but they beat SK, and it was actually really impressive. This fight in particular against SK, they didn't, pick up a lot of kills here. It wasn't anything flashy, but they built to their strengths. You had a good feeling that Dragonborns understood who they were as a team. They weren't trying to do anything past their capabilities because Hosan was dominant as Draven. He wasn't picking up a lot of kills here and there, but what they did was they had a very high damage team in that short range span. Draven in particular, he's going to win all trade matchups 1v1, and they just they kept on retreating as a team, keep on going back, kiting very effectively until, Draven only gets 1 or 2 hits here or there. And so SK, the entire time, similar to what happened against EG, they never got a fight where they were able to engage onto the back line of Dragonborns. And Dragonborns used that advantage to push objectives. They took dragons, they took turrets, all off of that. It was very similar to the game versus EG, actually. And they were able to, just bully them around because SK could never engage on them.
Yeah, absolutely. They do look solid. They do look like they have a lot of potential, and I think they'll continue to improve as the season goes on. But that's not something I can say for the Copenhagen Wolves, unfortunately.
No.
Going into the EU loser side of things, the Wolves are just, hanging on for dear life, seeing what they can do, and they can't really do anything. And we have actually a clip of the Wolves coming up, but, this is their closest shot to getting a win here. This is versus Giants. We saw, an interesting team fight. They're trying to assert their map dominance, trying to push that mid lane down, but they aren't able to do it. A good initiation from Ashe on Giants comes in and turns this fight around. And really, if the Wolves can't beat Giants, then I don't think they can beat anybody at this point. And that's really the big thing. They're showing their potential, and there doesn't seem to be a lot there.
Well, let's be fair here, though, for a second, because the Wolves, right before the match, actually a very unfortunate turn of events, the Tess, he was actually mugged in the city of Cologne right before the match had happened or earlier in the day, and he wasn't able to play as a result. They brought on Lord, but this is a last-second substitution. He hasn't been playing with the team. Yes, he might be very strong, but if you watch all of the games in the past with the Copenhagen Wolves, their strength as a team is when the Tess gets Caitlyn, #1. That's his strongest champion, but he's a very strong AD carry at staying alive and positioning, and they have these long, protracted team fights. Copenhagen Wolves, their issue is they're not getting to the team fighting phase on an even ground. They're always falling behind early. They're losing in the map control kind of sense to a lot of these teams. So we'll kind of see how they can progress. I think they have potential down the line. We have to give them some credit for the test being out, but they're really struggling. I don't have them beating anyone for a while now.
Yeah, me too.
SK, you also have to consider SK a big loser this weekend. 1-2 after a really impressive start last weekend. To be fair, do you expect EG to lose to SK? Yes, I do, of course. I made the pick there. I think a lot of people did.
Yep.
Evil Geniuses is very strong, so that's fine. Dragonborn's kind of a surprise there that SK lost that match, and it was in a similar fashion to when they lost versus Evil Geniuses. They still look very solid, though, so we'll kind of see how they progress.
I think a lot of it has to do with if SK gets the comp that they want specifically.
Yeah,
they play a lot of niche champions, a lot of Ocelot on Kassadin, played sort of unusually, in which case, if they don't get the picks that they want, they're not going to be successful. And I didn't see them getting all the picks that they wanted. It didn't look like familiar team comps for them. They seemed a little bit out of place. And to build them up a little bit, they are a good team. They are solid. They practice a lot. They have a lot of dedication, a lot of experience between Ocelot and Kevin and some of the other members. So I think they have the potential to really make it through the season and do well. But it has they have to expand their champion pool. They have to continue to practice and continue to research their opponents.
But you could see this weekend one of their biggest weaknesses in that they're very strong when their opponents are initiating, when they're playing against short-range teams like Giants, who they had beaten, like Gambit Gaming potentially in the future. These short-range teams, because then they can counter-engage them and force these AoE fights right in front of them, which is to their benefit. That's the kind of team that they're running. The issue is they're struggling with forcing initiations themselves, and that's why they're struggling to end games when they're ahead, because they're not very strong at initiating, and they're also struggling against these very strong kiting teams, in particular Lux. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see SK banning out Lux for a while because she really gave them a lot of difficulties. But that being said, that's the show. We are going to be back tomorrow, guys. We're going to have our picks for this upcoming weekend. We're really excited to continue looking at what's going on in the LCS. So, send us any love, send us your thoughts on what we should talk about. We can still talk about some other topics as well. And definitely follow us on Twitter as well, at James REILMAN now. I changed my Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm so proud of you.
I'm a man.
He's a man now. And I'm at Nick Allen IGN. Hit us up on Twitter, at us. Let us know what you think. Keep tuning into the LCS. Keep watching those exciting matches, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.